will now proceed with training on the NAC Agent. This training will cover the NAC Agent plugin of the NAC Agent. The ARP Management Table plugin performs two key functions: deleting static ARP entries and anti-ARP spoofing. The deleting static ARP entries function removes statically configured ARP entries on user endpoints if they exist. This ensures that the ARP list is managed dynamically for better network stability and security. To apply the deleting static ARP entries setting in the ARP Management Table Node action, the following configurations are required. Once the configuration is updated and the node action is applied to the endpoint, you can verify the changes as follows. The anti-ARP spoofing function manages the ARP list on user endpoints statically. The statically managed ARP list includes targets configured with IP conflict prevention in the IP management function. For these targets, ARP entries are forcibly set to static to enhance security and prevent spoofing. To apply the anti-ARP spoofing setting in the ARP Management Table Node action, the following configurations are required. After the configuration is updated, and the node action is applied to the endpoint, the changes can be verified as follows. The DNS Control plugin enforces specified DNS addresses or manages the contents of the host file. Enforcing arbitrary DNS address settings works as follows. First, for endpoints assigned an IP via DHCP, if the DNS address is manually set to use the following DNS server addresses, the plugin forcibly changes the setting to obtain DNS server address automatically. To apply the Obtain DNS server address automatically setting in the Control DNS node action, the following configurations are required. After the configuration is updated and the node action is applied to the endpoint, the changes can be verified as follows. Secondly, if the IP is manually configured instead of using DHCP and an arbitrary DNS address is used, the plugin forcibly changes the DNS to the managed DNS server address. To apply the Use the following DNS server addresses setting in the Control DNS node action, the following configurations are required. After the configuration is updated and the node action is applied to the endpoint, the changes can be verified as follows. The DNS lookup process includes functionality to add or remove specific hosts in the host file used during the lookup process. To apply the Editing Hosts file setting in the Control DNS node action, the following configurations are required. After the configuration is updated and the node action is applied to the endpoint, the changes can be verified as follows. The Control web browser settings enforces settings in the General, Security, Connections, and Content sections of the Internet Explorer browser. In the General section, it can enforce changes to the homepage or mandate the deletion of temporary Internet files. In the Security section, you can enforce the following settings: downloading unsigned ActiveX controls, automatic prompting for ActiveX controls, automatic prompting for file downloads, default pop-ups setting, trusted sites. In the Connections section, you can enforce proxy server settings for LAN connections. This setting does not apply to dial-up or VPN connections. In the Content section, you can enforce the disabling of the form autocomplete feature. In the Additional Features, you can configure the following: deleting unused ActiveX control, removing toolbar, removing browser helper object, exceptions. The Malware Detector plugin determines whether executable files created on an endpoint are malicious. The plugin requires no additional configuration, but collects information from the user's endpoint. Therefore, user consent for information collection is required. Exclusion paths can be configured to specify directories where information collection is not performed. By default, the exclusion path includes the location of antivirus quarantine files. If there are additional paths where information collection should not occur, they must be manually entered. Information is collected every 2 minutes for new files with the .exe extension, excluding paths specified in the exclusion list, and sent to the policy server. The basic information collected for executable files includes file name, hash value, PE feature, digital signature status, digital signature, signer name, and signer fingerprint. The policy server transmits collected information to the ecosystem at 2-hour intervals for analysis. Based on this transmission cycle, results from data sent 2 hours prior are received once the analysis is completed. The Malware Detector plugin solely performs the role of collecting information and reporting the collected results. To use the analysis results for control purposes, the malware detection item under anomaly definition must be applied to the enforcement policy. To check for the presence of malicious files installed on the endpoint device through the malware detector node action, the following configurations are required. Once the updated node action is applied to the endpoint device, the changes can be verified as shown below. The video was recorded with a modified collection interval for demonstration purposes, and the actual collection time may vary. The Inspect TCP Connections plugin monitors TCP sessions in various states, such as closed, established, close wait, time wait, and SYN sent, to check for threshold violations and performs interface control accordingly. The update interval can be configured to set the connection's change threshold and interval for information transfer. Additionally, thresholds for each session state can be defined, and if a session state exceeds the specified threshold, interface control is executed. To apply the session information collection and interface control settings in the Inspect TCP Connections node action, the following configurations are required. After updating the configuration and applying the node action to the endpoint, the changes can be verified as follows. The Control Windows Firewall plugin enforces Windows firewall policies by applying them forcibly. There are two methods for applying rules: automatic rule control and custom rule control. In automatic rule control, when a NAC control policy is applied to the endpoint, the enforcement policy permissions are automatically applied as rules in the Windows firewall. The custom rule control option applies manually configured inbound and outbound policies from the plugin as Windows firewall rules. To apply the custom rule settings in the Control Windows Firewall node action, the following configurations are required. After updating the configuration and applying the node action to the endpoint, the changes can be verified as follows. The Configure Windows Security Settings plugin enforces settings for the following items: Windows Firewall, Remote Desktop, Recovery Console, Auto Logon, Auto Run, Internet Time Synchronization, Scheduled Task for Windows XP, Disabling Guest Account, Require a Password on Wake Up, Screen Off Timeout, Sleep Mode Timeout, and Enable Fast Startup. Among the default settings of the Windows Security Settings plugin, The Windows Firewall option enforces the inbound blocking policy configured in the plugin to be applied to the Windows Firewall. The Remote Desktop section enforces the disabling of remote desktop settings on the endpoint device. The Recovery Console Auto Login section enforces disabling the automatic login feature, ensuring that a user's password is required when using the Recovery Console. The Auto Run section enforces disabling the Auto Run feature for removable disks, local disks, network drives, CD-ROMs, and RAM disks. The Configure Windows Security Settings plug-in extra settings configure the following options. Internet Time Synchronization provides functionality to enforce Windows Time Synchronization server settings. Schedule Task for Windows XP enforces disabling the Scheduled Tasks feature on Windows XP. Disabling Guest Account enforces disabling the Windows Guest Account. The Configure Windows Security Settings plug-in Power Options includes the following settings. Require a password on wake-up. Enforces the password protection setting when resuming from sleep mode. Screen Off configures the time before the screen turns off during idle periods. Sleep configures the time before the system enters sleep mode during idle periods. Turn on Fast Startup enforces the configuration for how the power button operates. To apply the power options related settings in the Configure Windows Security Settings plugin Node action, the following configurations are required. After updating the configuration and applying the node action to the endpoint, the changes can be verified as follows. The Update Windows plugin performs update functions on endpoints according to the Windows Update policy. The Windows Update Set section requires prior definition in the policy Windows Update policy and includes settings for the inspection timing to check update items and the operation mode to execute updates. Windows Updates inspect the installation records on the device, download approved patches from those not yet installed, and perform the installation. To apply the update settings in the Update Windows node action, the following configurations are required. After modifying and applying the configured node action to the device, the changes can be observed as follows. The Collect Hardware Information plugin collects details about the motherboard manufacturer, CPU, memory, disk, battery presence, and PC type. For CPU, memory, and disk, it transmits updated information based on the configured minimum update ratio. The PC type information collected by the Collect Hardware Information plugin consists of the following 24 categories. To collect relevant information using the Collect Hardware Information node action, the following configurations are required. After applying the modified node action to the endpoint device, You can confirm the changes as shown below. The Collect Printer Information plugin gathers details about printers connected to the device. No additional configuration is required. It uses the enum printers function from the Windows API to collect information about connected printers and uses WMI query to gather details about virtual printers. To collect relevant information using the Collect Printer Information node action, the following configurations are required. After applying the modified node action to the endpoint, the changes can be verified as shown below. The Control Network Folder Sharing plugin collects information about shared folders connected to the endpoint and allows the removal of shared folders based on access permissions. Shared folder information is collected using the netShareEnum function from the Windows API. Shared folder removal can be performed for all shared folders, except for specified exceptions, including delay, read-only folder exception, stopping everyone folder only, administrator shares exception, printer management shares exception. To collect and control shared folder information using the Control Network Folder Sharing node action, the following configurations are required. The changes can be verified as shown below. The Network Traffic Control plugin uses network interface traffic threshold settings to block interfaces when thresholds are exceeded. Plugin configuration includes options for update interval, moving average, total threshold, incoming threshold, and outgoing threshold. Additionally, an interface blocking notification feature can be configured to notify users of interface blocks via user messages or agent pop-ups. To control the network interface of an endpoint using the Control Network Traffic node action, the following configurations are required. After modifying the settings and applying the node action to the endpoint, the changes can be verified as follows. The Collect Network Information plugin collects details about the IPv4 and IPv6 settings configured on the interface adapter. The collected network information can be viewed in the System Information tab under Interface Information, IPv4 configuration, and IPv6 configuration. During the collection process, the plugin uses Windows API functions to gather data and combines the collected information for display. To collect relevant information using the Collect Network Information node action, the following configurations are required. After modifying the settings and applying the node action to the endpoint, the changes can be verified as follows. The Collect Monitor Information plugin collects information about monitors connected to the device. It uses the EDID, a standard value for data exchange between source and output devices, from the registry to collect monitor information. To collect relevant information using the Collect Monitor Information node action, the following configurations are required. After modifying the settings and applying the node action to the endpoint, the changes can be verified as follows. The Control Personalization plugin configures settings for screensavers, wallpaper, and miscellaneous. For the screensaver settings, the plugin collects information about the current screensaver in use and provides features to enforce a user screensaver or fix the waiting time. Additionally, it allows enabling the Windows Logon screen display to show the logon screen when the screensaver is deactivated. The NAC reauthentication feature can also be configured to disable NAC user authentication upon deactivation of the screensaver and enforce reauthentication. To collect and control screensaver information using the Control Personalization node action, the following configurations are required. After modifying the settings and applying the node action to the endpoint, the changes can be verified as follows. The Wallpaper Settings section allows administrators to enforce a desktop background image uploaded by them. To control desktop wallpaper images using the Control Personalization node action, the following configurations are required. After modifying the settings and applying the node action to the endpoint, the changes can be verified as follows. The File Integrity Check interval in the Miscellaneous section verifies the integrity of the screensaver and desktop wallpaper image. If the files are found to be corrupted, they are re-downloaded and reapplied. To verify the integrity of screensavers or desktop wallpaper images using the Control Personalization Node action, the following configurations are required. After modifying the settings and applying the node action to the endpoint, the changes can be verified as follows. The Control WLAN plugin performs the following functions: SSID information scope, disabling wireless connection, and disabling AP mode. It collects information about APs detected or previously connected to by the user's device and allows restricting AP connections based on a whitelist. It can block wireless AP modes such as soft AP or ad hoc on the wireless LAN interface. To collect AP information and control connections using the Control WLAN node action, the following configurations are required. After modifying the settings and applying the node action to the endpoint, the changes can be verified as follows. The Wireless Connection Manager plugin provides the ability to distribute profiles established in the wireless LAN policy and perform wireless LAN authentication through the Wireless Connection Manager program. When using the Wireless Connection Manager, the following items can be configured. To control wireless connections using the Wireless Connection Manager node action, the following configurations are required. After modifying the settings and applying the node action to the endpoint, the changes can be verified as follows. The Control Antivirus Software Settings plugin collects information about antivirus software registered in Windows or performs antivirus integration functions. Supported antivirus products for integration include corporate versions of OnLab v3, Hauri Virobot, and ESTsoft Alyak. To collect antivirus information and integrate it using the Control Antivirus Software Settings node action, the following configurations are required. After modifying the settings and applying the node action to the endpoint, The changes can be verified as follows. Other collectible antivirus software includes a total of 20 options, and information about these antivirus programs is collected through the Windows registry. In the Control Antivirus Software Settings plugin, additional antivirus are gathered using WMI query. The Check Password Validation plugin performs password validation for Windows accounts. The plugin allows you to set the target for password validation as either the logged-on Windows account or the logged-out Windows account. You can selectively apply checks for the presence of a password and compliance with password rules. To validate and manage the password for a Windows login account using the Check Password Validation node action, the following configuration is required. After applying the modified node action to the device, the following changes can be observed. When the password validation target is set to a Windows logged out account, exception accounts can be configured. To validate and manage the passwords of Windows logged out accounts using the Check Password Validation node action, the following configurations are required. Once the configured node action is applied to the device, the following changes can be observed. The Control Network Interface plugin allows you to configure network device blocking settings and enforce network device properties. In the Network Device Blocking Settings section, you can apply blocking to interfaces based on their type or target interfaces configured with promiscuous mode. To control the network interface of a device using the Control Network Interface node action, the following configurations are required. After applying the configured node action to the device, the changes can be observed as follows. When the network interface is switched to blocked status, a pop-up message will notify the user, and they can obtain an authentication code to release the interface control. To block a device's network interface using the Control Network Interface node action and then allow it through an authorization code, the following settings are required. After applying the configured node action to the device, You can observe the changes as shown below. The Disabling Device Properties feature allows you to enforce the deactivation of Internet connection sharing and IPv6 properties. The Disable IPv6 property feature is supported only on operating systems running Windows Vista or later. The following configuration is required to set up network interface-related settings using the Control Network Interface Node action. Once the updated node action is applied to the endpoint, the changes can be verified as follows. The Collect Software Information plugin requires no additional configuration and functions to collect information on software installed on user devices. The software information is gathered from the registry, displaying the details specified in the relevant key values at the designated paths. The collected registry key values are as follows, and software information is displayed based on the settings of uninstall string, system component, and Windows installer. Software information will not be displayed if the following values are set for the respective key. To collect information on installed software through the Collect Software Information node action, the following configuration is required. Once the configured node action is applied to the device, the changes can be observed as follows. The Control External Device plugin manages devices connected to user endpoints. Control methods include uninstall and disable, with an option to provide an external device request form for approval of blocked devices. To control devices connected to endpoints using the Control External Device node action, the following configurations are required. After applying the configured node action to the endpoint, the changes can be observed as follows. The Change Hostname plugin allows for changing the computer name, or hostname, on user endpoints. This plugin is primarily used for administrative purposes, enabling the restriction and configuration of randomly generated computer names according to the settings defined in node policies or macros specified through direct input. For the change hostname to be applied successfully, the user endpoint must be rebooted. The reboot method is configured on the user endpoint after the computer name has been changed. If there is a system related to AD or device OS permissions, system settings cannot be changed using the logon user account. In such cases, you can specify an account with higher privileges to change system settings by using the execution account configuration. To change the host name of the endpoint using the Change Hostname node action, the following settings are required. After applying the modified node action to the endpoint, you can verify the changes as follows. The Authenticate user using NAC Agent plugin enables user authentication for NAC through the agent's authentication window. The authentication window allows users to perform authentication based on the authentication method specified in the node policy or select biometric authentication using a fingerprint scanner. Supported fingerprint scanners include those from NITGen and Suprema. The Authenticate user using NAC Agent section allows you to configure the use of images, displaying title bar, dialog box color, font color, and help message options. In the Miscellaneous section, you can configure authentication enforcement and program run after authentication. Authentication enforcement prevents users from closing the agent authentication window by deactivating the exit button. Program run after authentication is used to invoke external programs based on the authenticated information after completing user authentication through the NAC Agent authentication window. To display the agent authentication window via a node action, the following configurations are required. After modifying and applying the node action to the endpoint, the following changes can be observed on the device. The Collect Computer OS Information plugin gathers version and detailed information about the operating system. Host name, OS version, and language are collected using Windows-provided APIs. IE version and Windows installation date are obtained by referencing specific registry values. Domain information is retrieved via WMI query. To collect operating system information from the endpoint device using the Collect Computer OS Information node action, the following configurations are required. After making the modifications and applying the configured node action to the endpoint device, you will observe the changes as follows. The Configuring Wired Authentication Settings plugin performs EAP-based authentication functions on wired interfaces. It configures the authentication method profile for connected wired interfaces to facilitate network authentication. To control a wired network on the endpoint device, using the Configuring Wired Authentication Settings node action, the following configuration is required. After modifying the settings, apply the updated node action to the endpoint device. the changes will result in the following updates visible on the endpoint. The Collect System Information using WMI plugin collects data using the WMI functionality provided by Windows. WMI is a feature in Windows designed for management purposes, allowing the collection of system information and performing necessary actions. To use the Collect System Information using WMI node action for gathering various details via WMI queries, the following configurations are required. After applying the modified node action to the device, the updated settings will reflect as shown below. The Notify User plugin delivers messages to users. Depending on the length of the message, the message title supports up to 1,019 characters. The pop-up window allows up to 15,999 characters. To display messages using the agent through the Notify User node action, the following settings are required. After applying the modified node action to the device, you will observe the following changes. The Check Instant Messaging Application Installation plugin performs the function of checking specific conditions on user devices. This plugin is used when creating node groups based solely on whether the plugin's execution results satisfy or do not satisfy the specified conditions, without any associated functionalities. To perform checks based on the conditions set in the Check Instant Messaging Application Installation node action, the following configuration is required. After applying the modified node action to the device, the following changes can be observed. The Shutdown System plugin enables the forced shutdown of a user's device. It operates in 3 modes: sleep, shutdown, and restart. To enable the Shutdown System plugin, you need to configure the Uptime for Power Control setting. The Uptime for Power Control specifies the duration the terminal has been operational. The plugin will only execute controls if the endpoint device uptime exceeds the configured duration. When the device is in sleep mode, the Uptime for Power Control applies from the moment the sleep mode is exited, resetting the Uptime for Power Control start time accordingly. To control system operations through the shutdown system node action, the following configuration is required. Once the configured node action is applied to the device, the changes will be reflected as shown below. The Uninstall Programs plugin allows forcibly deleting programs listed under the Uninstall or Change a Program section. You can specify the program to be removed by setting the program name field, and the asterisk symbol can be used for program name matching. If the program involves Active Directory or OS permissions, it might not be removed with a standard user account. In such cases, you can configure the execution account setting to specify an account with privileged account for removal. To delete programs installed on a device using the Uninstall Programs node action, the following settings are required. After applying the configured node action to the device, you can verify the following changes. The Terminate Process plugin provides the ability to forcibly terminate running processes on a device. To configure the plugin, select the Condition field, choose Process as the condition, and input the name of the process to be terminated. Additionally, you can enable a Process Terminated Event Notification feature to inform the user via a pop-up message whenever a process is forcibly terminated. To terminate processes running on a device using the Terminate Process node action, the following settings are required. After applying the updated node action to the device, the changes can be observed as follows. The Check Required Application Installation plugin performs a check for the presence of programs defined by the NAC system, antivirus programs, inspects the installation status of antivirus software from 13 specified vendors. To inspect the installation status of antivirus programs using the Check Required Application Installation node action, the following configurations are required. After applying the configured node action to the device, you will observe the following changes. Disk encryption programs. Checks for the installation of disk encryption software from 7 specified vendors. To inspect the required software using the Check Required Application Installation node action, the following configurations are necessary. After applying the configured node action to the device, the following changes can be observed. The third category pertains to patch management programs. It inspects the installation status of disk encryption programs defined by two vendors. To inspect the installation status of patch management programs using the Check Required Application Installation node action, the following configurations are necessary. After applying the configured node action to the device, the following changes can be observed. This time, we learned about the NAC Agent plugin, the last item of the NAC Agent. This concludes the Genion NAC Beginner Training Online Training.